What's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You guys, you can tell that I am not feeling my 100% best. And it is okay because I am well. I am well. I am on the mend and I am claiming that. Okay? So, let's talk really quickly before I go in here to Hobby Lobby and talk about Married to Medicine real quick. This was such a good episode, and this episode really just proves to me why I love this show so much more than Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's just a much better show in terms of authenticity. But we're not going to spend too much time on that. Thank you guys so much, those of you who are new subscribers as well as old subscribers, for always supporting me and rocking with me. I appreciate you. Those of you who have been sent from other channels, Beautiful Soul, Lady Nika, thank you so much for taking a chance, taking their advice. I hope that I don't disappoint. Let's talk about Married to Medicine real quick, this episode. I can't remember the name of the episode, but I'll put it in the description and all of that. This episode was so meaty, you guys. First and foremost, I'm going to give my MVPs for this episode. Number one MVP is Dr. Damon. Obviously, one of the best things about Heavenly is Dr. Damon. He's the reason why we are able to deal with Heavenly and not keep her tranquilized. And, you know, some of the things that he explained with regards to Heavenly, I can see why they work well together, because he's a good balance for all of the energy that she brings, you know, which sometimes can be a little bit much. I still think she did a good job putting this whole thing together, even though the last scene in Barbados, you know, that her whole therapy thing, it wasn't great. But anyway, as a whole, this trip, her planning this trip, I'm gonna give her an 8 out of 10 for sure. Let's see. My other MVP is Mariah. I have gone up and down about Mariah, but this episode I really hope was indicative of who she is deep down inside, and not all that other stuff we see. We do still see some of that biting nastiness in the confessional, but for her to come and share her story in order to give Dr. Jackie some comfort and some reassurance and kindness, hands down makes her one of my MVPs for this episode. It took a lot for her to share that and reveal that, not just to Dr. Jackie, but on camera. I mean, that was big. And then she went back and told her husband what she had said, so that he knows that she shared that in an effort to help one of their friends. And that said a lot to me about her as well. Now, so let's talk about it real quick. That whole conversation with the ladies in the beginning, Quad needed to hear that. Now, did she receive it? I don't think so. I do think that Quad feels as though she is picked on, and I don't think it's always that she's being picked on. I think that her perception of what people are trying to do in conversation is off. But a lot of that comes with living and maturity. You know, when people are a certain age and they feel in themselves a certain type of way, and they feel like, well, I've dotted all my I's, I've crossed all my T's, so there's really no reason for anyone to have anything to say to me. You know, you make a mistake, because the fact that you're a human means that you're going to constantly need pruning, need adjustment. You need to check yourself. You need to recheck yourself. You need to make sure of what your intent is, even in receiving or giving. You know, you need to check yourself and make sure, you know, your intent is right. And she's just not in a place where she can receive criticism and make it work for her. She's still in a real defensive place. I think that defensiveness comes across in her relationship with her husband Gregory, because he can't even give her what she wants. She's upset about something that she's not articulating. It's not just about appreciation. It's not. I think she wants him to say not only that she wants him to not only not say that he's taking care of her and he takes good care of her. She wants to be taken care of, but she also wants him to say that she's worth every penny, that it's worth everything that he's given up, that she's worth it. I think what we're seeing with Quad is a worth issue. She feels like I'm worth it, but no one is treating me like I'm worth it. And I think, the fact that a person makes a concession is saying that you're worth it. But for her, maybe it's a little bit more verbal. Maybe she needs to hear it more. And that's what it is. There's a worth issue with Quad. She needs to be reassured of her value. And I don't think it's from a vanity standpoint. I think she just needs to hear that she's worth it. Okay, so that's Quad and hopefully Dr. Gregory. Dr. Gregory, when they got to we're gonna talk about that. But anyway, let's talk about Jackie and Curtis. That scene with Jackie and Curtis when Dr. Heavenly was bringing them all together and she was trying to get them to talk. I think that was the biggest part of this show that we can chew off of. Dr. Heavenly, here's the thing. When you're looking to help people, you have to take your personal agenda out of it. I think a lot of those questions that she was asking was things that she would ask her husband, if it was her, and things that she feels like they need to be talking about. It wasn't about resolution. I think she's a black and white thinker in a lot of instances, and those questions kind of proved it. Again, we already know it's never really about the thing that people are arguing about. It's about some underlying emotions and feelings, and she was forgetting all of that. I say shout out to Eugene and Toya, who refused to buy into it. They were like, oh no. Shout out to Eugene. I needed to see that from Eugene, because after he let Curtis lower his wife down on Curtis's lap, and we didn't really hear anything from Eugene that said, I felt disrespected. I was kind of side-eyeing Eugene, but this conversation that they had on the beach when Dr. Heavenly tried to ask this question that was essentially putting words in his mouth and putting feelings in his heart that he wasn't necessarily feeling. Shout out to him for nipping that shit in the bud from Giddy Up. Him and Toya stood together as a united front. They meant that thing. They meant it. And I was proud of them. I really was. I was proud of Jackie and Curtis for coming up and wanting to talk about those things. I do feel like Jackie got the weekend of it from Curtis, because I think she was very vulnerable and very revealing in that moment. But Curtis, he seems to consistently not want to talk about it in detail. He seems to consistently not want to unpack his bull crap. He really wants her to say the things that she needs to hear, to reassure her and her get over it. He doesn't really want to unpack why he took that route, why he did the things that he did. So I did notice that. It was really wonderful to see her hug and be in with her husband and be able to just lay it on him, like, feel my pain, feel my sadness, feel my devastation over what has happened between us, what you have allowed to happen, what I have allowed to happen. I am so hurt. And that hugging and that crying, I could feel it. Oh, I could feel it through the TV. It was very emotional. It was very emotional. It's not true what they say about Dr. Jackie, and I've said that before. She shows her emotions differently, but you can look at her countenance and tell when she's hurt. You don't always have to see tears or what we perceive to be the telltale signs of feeling necessarily. Okay, so let's talk about Simone and Cecil. That situation with Simone and Cecil was so telling about how they argue. Simone's behavior on this last episode in Barbados was very telling about some of the things that Cecil has to put up with. The volume, the anger in the volume, the way she talks. You know, he finally just, you know, I mean, released a little bit of the pressure, and he let it off. You know, he let it off. I could see that he was angry. I could see that he was upset. And, you know, she was kind of, you know, belittling it and oversimplifying it by saying, oh, it's not about tit for tat. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You hold my feet to the fire about 25 grand. I know that Maserati was more than 25 grand. I know that Maserati was more than 25 grand. And it was a moment for her to say, I see your point. I see your point. Do you see my point? Do you understand that we're doing things that's systematically undermining one another, and we're not working together as a unit? And it was a good opportunity for Heavenly, if she wanted to really be a self-proclaimed, well, she is self-proclaimed, but if she really wanted to be an honestly good relationship therapist, you know, she could have mediated in that way, but she didn't. And it just went kablooey. It went kablooey. I was embarrassed for Cecil. I think Cecil was embarrassed for himself. But at the same time, it's like a kid. A kid can't necessarily articulate. They throw a temper tantrum. That was a temper tantrum from Cecil. And it was indicative of the way that they argue. It really was. It's like she pop off, he pop off, they pop off, no resolution. That's how they argue, and that is how they have come to this place where they are now soon to divorce if they're not careful. We still got our fingers crossed about Cecil and Dr. Simone. We talked about Toya and Eugene, Mariah and Aiden. Now, they have not come up and done any of these couples therapies together. Maybe it's because they just friends of the show or what, but we've seen them sort of buzz around like bees in and out of the couples and help and encourage and all of that, but we haven't seen them have these conversations. And we haven't seen the same thing from Contessa and her husband. I like Contessa and her husband's side conversation. It's cute. It's cute. It's cute. It's cute. It's cute. And it's a good way to look at things from the outside. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't been friends with these couples for long, but you know, they see things from our perspective, meaning they don't know them very well like that, but at the same time, from what they see, they're commenting on, and the comments are very astute. Let's see, Dr. Heavenly and those questions. I just think those questions were messy. You know, her intent. You know, I do think she didn't have bad intentions, but at the same time, I think her intentions weren't altogether to help. I think a lot of her intentions was to you know, be the martyr, to be the all-seeing eye, the right one. You know what I'm saying? The prophet. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what she was saying. I know what y'all need to do to make things better. Y'all need to do with me. And when she said me and Daddy don't have problems like that, well, the problems that we have, they're small. Well, let's hear from Daddy. Let's hear from Daddy. Now, Daddy would never do it, but let's hear from Daddy. Okay? I think he would tell a different story. I think he would say some things that would shock you, Dr. Heavenly, about ultimately how he feels about some of the things you say and some of the things you do. You be surprised, girl. You be surprised. I was proud of Mariah. I think Mariah stood in her truth about Quad, and I was proud of Quad and Mariah both for being able to put things aside and take that trip with Toya. That was a fun little moment that they had together, taking a picture in front of Riri's house. We don't know if that was really her house, but they say it was, or they think it was. So yeah. So that was a really good moment that they had. It was a great moment to see the guys at the bar talking. Dr. Gregory, some of the things that he was saying, you could tell that he really don't get what Quad is saying. But that is why it's not good for us to forsake the assembly of ourselves. You got some good friends that you can trust and you can depend on, that give good, sound, sage advice, not from their own agenda, but from their perspective, and they're doing it in love. it is just as good, if not better, than therapy, than talking to a therapist. And I forget which one of the husbands said it, but he said, you know, he kind of spoke to what my concerns was. How is Dr. Gregory a psychologist, but he's not able to understand what Quad ultimately is trying to ask him for? And one of the husbands said it, and I believe it's true. Dr. Damon is so invested in that marriage, the passion that he has for being right and making things fit in that marriage. He's not looking at the situation as a doctor, at the situation as a case. He's looking at it from this really, really embroiled in passion side. And I think one of my subbies said that too. I don't know if it was Hermit TV or Badu. Somebody said it. And it was kind of confirmed last night. He isn't looking at it from a case study as a doctor, as a psychologist. He's looking at it, you know, of course, from the inside as somebody who's going through it. And I think it was apparent in that conversation. I'm not sure, I hoped he did receive what the men were saying to him, because it was good advice. It was good advice. I was glad to see Eugene and Cecil and Damon piping up, and I was glad to see Curtis pipe down, because Curtis got a lot of work to do with himself. He does. He really, really does. And I just don't think he's going to be able to smooth it over with a cherry on top like he's doing. I think he's going to have to deconstruct that thing and really deal with why he behaved the way he behaved. That's it for me, you guys, with Married to Medicine. I hope I didn't forget anything. These are the things that stood out to me. This is a really, really good show. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm going to hold off on some of the things I really, really want to say about Quad, because I want next week to either confirm or deny my feelings about how she talked to him during that whole question and answer session that Dr. Heavenly put together. Sorry, you guys. But we're going to talk about it again next week. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the channel, checking out this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, honeybees, mwah, mwah, mwah.